for this week?
Very good. A victory against Colorado, and guys are in a good mental place. I think they're excited by the tournament. They're seeing what we're all seeing. The games that are building in before we play, and there's been some terrific competition thus far in the group stages. I think everyone's very excited by what's going on, and you can tell with the attitude of the guys that they're looking forward to the game tomorrow night. It's real good atmosphere.
We are going to open the floor for questions. We have Ben and Claudio. Ben, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Gary, obviously yesterday you guys just announced Sam Surridge as your new signing. It feels like you've kind of been looking for answers kind of at the number 9 position for a little bit. What do you think he brings to the team, and do you think he's the answer to those questions?
Well, I truly hope so, Ben. It's been a while trying to get this deal done. I know that Mike's done a tremendous amount of work behind the scenes to make this happen. Sam's an individual that we all looked at an awful lot. I think some of the qualities have already been stated in social media and on the websites. He's got a number of different qualities that I think are going to help the side massively. The most important one, of course, is that in and around the penalty area, he's got a good eye for goal, and he can score goals in different ways. He's good size, takes the ball in the air, 2 good feet, capable of creating an opportunity on his own. But if you add to that a very genuine individual, his background tells us that without the ball, he's going to be a very good team player. Athletically, he's in a really good place. And as a focal point, he's a good size, he has good techniques. And I'm hoping that, that quality that he brings is going to maybe even bring a little bit more out of some of the other guys as well. So there's numerous areas that he helps the team, but absolutely delighted to have him in the building.
Looking back at your past DP strikers in Jonder and Ake, felt like maybe there was a little bit of trouble getting them integrated into the group, and then having them kind of maintain a consistent spot in the lineup. I'm curious, from your perspective, do you feel like you and your staff have taken anything from that, and how do those kind of past experiences, how have those shaped the signing of Sam and how you're planning on utilizing him?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think there's always lessons to be learned from the very outset of identifying a player to then that integration and the understanding of how they fit into the group, and of course their acclimation. And excuse me, some of the issues that we encountered, unfortunately, were unforeseen. How players were going to come into the group, the sort of physical condition they were going to be in. In Yonder's case, really sadly for him, we went through that COVID period, and I think that made life incredibly difficult for how he settled into the group. But ultimately, I think in Sam we have a guy who, certainly, as I think Mike stated in his press release, fits the DNA of the group. If you look at what he's about, where he's come from, what type of player he is, the mentality of the individual, I think there are a lot of things that the players in the group are going to see and understand a little bit quicker than maybe one or two of the other guys.
And then just really quick, obviously Randall came off injured. You mentioned wanting to wait 24, 48 hours to get an update on him. How is he looking, and do you have an update on Jack as well, who's missed the last 3?
Yeah, I was very pleased to see Randall walking in unaided and looking fairly normal into video this morning, which was really good news. We're, 48 hours just gone beyond the problem. I think Randall's certainly going to be a couple of weeks, I would think, but the update on timelines will come from Yoshi in the next couple of days. But he's definitely in a better place than I think anyone anticipated as he walked away on crutches on Sunday. Jack's in a good place. I think he's into the sort of final tests and on-field movements that are going to hopefully tick the box and say that he can join in with a group when we resume after the Toluca game.
Claudio, go ahead.
Gary, you already stated a little bit of it, but I would like to have better lot of opinion in terms of what you've seen on this tournament so far, the level of competition, and, overall what you've seen already for this first year of this tournament, and also does it prepare the team a little different when it comes to play a Mexican team? We know we had the experience with America last season, but that was just a friendly, a little bit different. Now it's for points. How different that is?
Yeah, the first part of that, I mean, I've watched a number of the games, and a couple of things strike me. The first one is, I do think the way that this group stage has been set up with that extra point for penalties, I'm sure plenty of coaches looked at that and thought, how's that going to work? It's a little bit different, maybe too extreme. But it's actually created quite a unique situation with regards to teams going through. We saw last night with Houston, Santos got back in the game, but that penalty shootout win has kept them alive. And you could tell that, it meant an awful lot to the group. So I think that's the first thing. The way that this has been set up, I think, has created a really good sort of pipeline towards those knockout games, if you like. The second thing is, as I look at some of the Mexican groups who I certainly don't have an awful lot of experience with, the competition against the MLS groups in what will be, a very quick and purposeful competition, you're finding some exciting games. I didn't see all of the Houston game because I was like probably millions of other people watching the Miami game. And, when I tuned in, it sounded like Houston were, lights out in the first half, and Santos, really turned the tables on them in the second period. But I think the teams are finding an awful lot about the Mexican groups as they go through the games, And I think the same will be said tomorrow night for Toluca. There'll be a lot to be learned in the early exchanges for both teams. What we should expect and what I have seen at the Mexican sides are well and truly up for this competition. It's been positive, energetic, competitive, end-to-end stuff at times. Chances galore in most games. If you look at the Miami Cruz Azul game, I thought Cruz Azul were terrific, and in many ways should have been in a unassailable position before Messi came onto the field. But I think you can see the qualities in the Mexican groups, which we all expected anyway. So I would expect nothing different tomorrow night against Toluca. We've prepared for a side that are very, very positive, very effective if they can get themselves in the attacking half of the field. An aggressive look to their group, and extremely capable if they can get on top. My hope is, of course, that we can get off on the right footing and show what we have done in a lot of home games. But I think in the main, preparation for these groups will take place, and there'll be a lot taken out of the games. For example, Colorado watching us play against Toluca. I think there's only so much we can find out in 3 league games that Toluca have had already at this stage of their season. As I looked at their work, they had 2 games where players had been sent off, one for themselves and one an opponent early on in games. So it starts to become a little bit fragmented. So I do think as this tournament progresses, you're going to find out a lot more about those groups.
We are going to transition onto the Zoom. John Lupo, I'm going to give you the permission to speak now.
Thank you. I'll just get my 2 quick questions.
We have time for only one, John. I'm sorry.
All right. So you mentioned, Gary, that that Toluca like to be aggressive if they can get the ball. Do you feel like that? Obviously, possession will be key, and we know how good you are defensively. So do you feel like just being able to keep the ball from them, playing strong defensively? Maybe we'll see Sam. Maybe we won't. Do you feel like that those may be the keys in order to prevent them from fully getting into their
Honestly, I think there's more than one quality needed to win this game. For sure, to be positive early on, both sides of the ball. I certainly don't want to sit too deep against this group. You haven't seen us do that for a long, long time. I think an aggressive outlook, generally is the way to start this game. And if we can put ourselves on the front foot, I think it takes away, even some of that emotional positive feeling for Toluca. The things we have to be, truly careful of are the way that they transition in the game. They've got some very talented players, and there's no doubt if they can get themselves into a bright and maybe highly motivated position on the ball, then it's going to be a problem. But I'm expecting that we'll come out of the traps here. I think there's some excitement from the victory on Sunday night, and everyone's looking forward to this.
Dre Heels, go ahead.
You've coached that Stevenage before, so you're familiar, obviously, from a coaching standpoint and the different tiers of English football. Considering Sam and the fact that he's played pretty much in the top 6 tiers over there, what from the skill set point of view, I guess, what do you think can apply in MLS, and how do you think he can enforce himself on the field, and what have you got to know about him in I guess 24 hours that you got a chance to meet him?
Well, look, first and foremost, Sam has certainly out on loan from some of his parent clubs has experienced the different levels of football. And I think that what that does is it gives you an experience and some foundation in your mental and physical world. Make no mistake, it is not easy to play, Scunthorpe on a Tuesday night when you're a young man and you're trying to find your way. And I'm using that as an example. So he's had a good grounding. He's played at some very good levels. He's featured in the national setup. He's an intelligent boy, and he's technically very, very capable. And what he has been able to do is prove that he can score goals at all levels. We've seen some terrific transitions from the English game, especially, and I would, after example, Bradley Wright Phillips coming in at New York Red Bull and being so successful and so capable. And when you see those type of players come over and how impactful they can be, and certainly with the experiences they've had, I see many, many similarities in the way that Sam could transition and how effective he could be. Different players, of course, but certainly more than capable of having a huge impact in this league. As far as Sam himself, he's a terrific lad, very down to earth, very humble lad. I'm sure he'll fit in with the group. Transition will be extremely smooth.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate you taking the time. And a quick reminder to everybody.